Good morning, friends. Welcome to VANIK Current Affairs class. The first topic is navigating India's global reach amidst regional decline. This is a very important topic. So, the article highlights a paradox in contemporary Indian foreign policy. On the one hand, India is rising globally, whereas on the other hand, its influence in the Southeastern region is declining. This is a paradox. Okay. So when its image around the globe is increasing, but its local image in the region is on a falling trend. What is the reason behind this? We'll discuss it. India's global rise is attributed to growth in absolute power, like economic growth, fifth largest economy, military capability, young demography, which is harvesting demographic dividend, peer accommodation, and a conducive international situation. All these are factors contributing to India's rise in the global scenario. India's inclusion in key global institutions G20, G7 as an observer, Quad, BRICS, SCO highlights its geographical significance and powerful global presence. Increased global focus on Indo-Pacific, where India plays a central role, has helped boost India's global standing. These are the factors that has made India to enhance its global focus or global ranking. But reason behind India's this can be cited as the reason behind the rising Indian global image. Okay, but simultaneously factors that have led to decline in India's regional power. So regionally India became, although globally India is rising, but regionally India is on a downward slope. Despite its global rise, India's influence in South Asia has declined sharply compared to the Cold War period. Okay, Indian influence, decline, and global prominence. India's rise, global prominence is also one of the reason for its regional declining, because as it increasing its image globally, so its focus is being shifted from the region to the global scenario. So that is a reason for also attributed to falling Indian importance in the region. For instance, the American withdrawal from the region and Chinese increased presence in South Asia, especially American from Afghanistan, and Chinese influence is a big factor. Okay. So neighboring strategies, smaller South Asian countries are using strategy like balancing, bargaining, hedging, and going, perceiving China as a beneficial counterbalance to India. Okay, the rise of China and its impact. China's rise is the main factor behind India's regional decline. This is because for the first time India faces stiff geopolitical competition from a rising superpower neighbor. The arrival of China in South Asia, the US withdrawal, Okay. The rise of China and its impact. China's rise in the main factor behind India's regional decline. This is because for the first time India faced stiff geopolitical competition from a rising superpower neighbor. The arrival of China in South Asia, the US withdrawal from Afghanistan, and India's tilt towards the Indo-Pacific, okay, have shifted the regional balance of power in Beijing's favor. That means in Chinese favor. Okay. What are the implications of this paradox for India? India's situation of rising globally but weakening regionally has big consequences for its global goals. Its rise questions its rise questions about whether a country that is not able to maintain its importance in its periphery, then how it can be a pivotal power in international politics. Way forward, India need to recognize that the region, its neighbor, and the geopolitics has changed significantly in the past 15 years or so. There is a need to revisit traditional conception of the region and okay. So India need to recognize that region, its neighbor, and the geopolitics have changed significantly uh, in the past 15 years or so. There is a need to revisit traditional conception of the region and modernize India's primacy in South Asia. India should focus on its strength rather than trying to match China's might in every aspect. For example, reclaiming Buddhist heritage. Okay, India should focus on the strength rather than trying to match China's might in every aspect. For example, reclaiming the Buddhist heritage site. Okay, okay. So India should leverage its maritime advantage in the Indo-Pacific to address the continental handicap by engaging smaller South Asian nations in the Indo-Pacific strategy. For example, India and its partners like the US, Japan, etc. can find ways to engaging and partnering with Sri Lanka, the Maldives, and Bangladesh as part of their large Indo-Pacific strategy. There is a need to view the region through. Okay, they need to view the region through a non-Indian centric lens and work with external friendly parents in the Indian Ocean and South Asia. India soft power. Okay, so there is a need to view the region through a non-Indian centric lens and work with external friendly partners in the Indian Ocean and South Asia. India's soft power need to be utilized innovatively. Okay, India's soft power need to be utilized innovatively to maintain influence in the region, like promoting informal communication among political and civil society figure in countries where India is reluctant to engage directly in conflicts. For example, dealing with the present Myanmar crisis. Okay. So, because India's soft power need to be utilized innovatively to maintain influence in the region, like promoting informal communication among political and civil society figures in countries where India is reluctant to engage directly in conflict. For example, dealing with the Myanmar crisis, where the military has taken over, democracy is in threat, so India can play its role in bringing back democracy and to some extent in solving the issue of the refugee, okay, from the Myanmar, called the Rohingya refugees. Slow progress in achieving the SDG goals. Next topic, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations. The UN Summit on Sustainable Development Goal was held in New York recently. It assessed progress towards achieving the 17 SDG and 116 specific targets set by the Agenda 2030, adopted in 2015. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted the Sustainable Development Goal with 17 different goals and 169 specific targets to be achieved between a period of 2015 to 2030. The article highlights the slow progress and challenges in achieving the sustainable development goals of the uh, United Nations or the global community. Description: SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goal. They are set of 17 goal objectives established by the United Nations in 2015 as part of the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development of the world and the humanity and around the global community. Coverage: these goals cover a wide range of social, economic and environmental issues aiming to address the world's most pressing challenges including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace and justice. Nature: the SDG program is international non-binding. However, all countries have committed to work towards these goals. Although they are non-binding, yet countries are trying and are committed to achieve this. Okay, so they are non-binding because UN has not made it binding on the member countries. Overall progress towards achieving the SDG, slow progress. Report indicates that progress has been slow and off track. While there were some improvements between 2015 and 2019, they were largely inadequate to meet the goals. Impact of COVID-19, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and other global crises have significantly impacted the progress or impeded the progress or execution of the goal. And two issues, one is the financial need, second is the requirement of manpower. So both hampered by the COVID-19 and the following economic slowdown has made it little difficult to achieve. Okay, so overall progress towards achieving the SDG goal. Slow progress report indicate that progress has been slow and off track. While there were some improvement between 2015 and 2019, they were largely inadequate to meet the goals. Impact of COVID-19. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and other global crises have significantly impeded progress. Lack of adequate attention to environmental goals. Not enough focus has been attached to goal about the environment and protecting biodiversity. The slow progress is owing because it goes against the idea that all the SDG are connected and cannot be separated. It also put the environment at risk of getting worse in a faster manner. Key area that require urgent action. The UN SDG report 2023 identified 5 key area for urgent action. Although 17 goals have been set, okay, so that concrete, integrated, and targeted policy and action to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality, and end the war on nature with a focus on advancing women's and girls' rights and empowering the vulnerable section of the society. So the UN SDG report 2023 identified 5 key areas for urgent action. Although 17 goals are there, 5 areas need urgent action. Commitment of government to 7 years of accelerated, sustained and transformative action to deliver the SDG promises, because so 30, that means this is 2024, hardly 5-6 years left. Concrete, integrated and targeted policy and action to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality and end the war on nature, with a focus on advancing women's and girls' rights and empowering the vulnerable. Strengthening national and subnational capacity, accountability and public institutions to deliver accelerated progress. A recommendant of the international community to deliver and mobilize resources to assist developing nations. Continued strengthening of the UN development system. So these are the focus area which although okay, so but these 5 areas need to be given a concrete focus as identified by the recent review meeting. Impact of this slow progress: if the current pattern persists, it will result in a faster decline in environmental quality. This contradicts the aim of moving towards sustainability. The SDG have not been sufficient in making much political difference at the national or local level, except discussions and some small changes in rules and institutions. It suggests that setting global goals does not directly impact politics on local or national level. Suggestions given by the 2019 report feature is now for accelerating SDG implementation. Systematic approach to achieve the 2030 agenda. It highlights how the 2030 agenda can truly change things by using a systematic approach. This implies finding a balance between different results and ensuring that actions help achieve several SDG at the same time. Selecting priority areas, it recommends choosing the most suitable starting points based on local needs and regional or national priorities. Then it suggests using 4 key tools: governance, economy and money, action by individual and groups, and science and technology to be used for achieving this. Collective partnership for global sustainable development. People in this sector must collaborate and build new partnership to develop the and execute sustainable development targets set by the United Nations. Okay, so in 2024, many countries around the world will have elections involving 64 nations and nearly half of the world's population. It's important for the new government to think about sustainability and align their national policy accordingly, because elections at times are a very hectic period. So there is a possibility of violation. So how the new government coming to power will focus on this achieving sustainable goal that remain the bigger issue. Hello, good afternoon. I got it. Huh? Okay. Namaste. मैडम तिकडे किती एक असते जेवण ते सीआरपी मैडम पूरा सीआरपी सब कर रखे अपन सीआरपी सब करते जो अपन पूरा करना ना तो डील को प्रोटेक्ट आते सीआरपी सब को जो पाया पड़ती Then that INCOIS is so alert to coastal states on swell surge. Swell surge is a very new concept. The Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, okay, has issued a warning to the coastal states about the complete suspension of operational and recreational activities. Potential for swell surge. This is due to the potential for swell surge and rough sea conditions caused by the influence of high period swell waves approaching the distant southern Indian Ocean. Safety advisory for the fishermen and coastal residents. They have been advised to exercise caution regarding potential wave surge, such as intermittent inundation of seawater in the near shore and beach areas, especially in low-lying areas. Origin and movement of high period swells. The high period swells have started at approximately 10,000 kilometers. Okay, away from the Indian coast in the South Atlantic Ocean and slowly move towards the Southern Indian Ocean, which will create a lot of problem in the Indian coastal area. This has caused the high energy swell propagation towards the Indian coastal regions, which is expected to hit the southern tip of the India in the early hours of May 4th. This long period swell combined with high tide conditions can cause coastal flooding in the low-lying areas on May 4th and 5th as it was predicted. Okay, maybe delayed by 1 or 2 days plus and minus. The swell waves, what is the swell wave? The wave are formed by an ocean swell and the name swell waves. Swell surge. A swell wave is the formation of long wavelength waves on the surface of the sea. They propagate along the interface between water and air. Thus, they are often referred to as the surface gravity waves. Origin: ocean swells do not occur due to the local winds, but rather due to distant storms like hurricanes or even long periods of strong winds over that area. Usually, states like Kerala witness swell waves as a result of strong winds in the southern parts of the Indian Ocean, where an ocean swell is generated and the wave then travel north to reach the coast in 2 or 3 days. Okay. Influencing factor: the spread of the wind, the amount of ocean surface area affected by the wind blowing in the same direction, also known as the fetch, and the amount of time those winds blow over the same part of the ocean are influential factor. Feature of these swell waves: narrow range of frequencies. Swell have narrower range of frequencies and direction than locally generated wind waves. Swell take on a more defined shape and direction and are less random than locally generated wind waves. In terms of directionality, they are characterized by the direction from where it emanates instead of where it is headed. Wavelength: swell waves often have a long wavelength, but this varies with the size of the water body. Their wavelength may rarely exceed more than 150 meter. Swell wavelength also varies from event to event. Occasionally, swells which are longer than 700 meters occur as a result of the most severe storms. Earlier instances of swell waves in India: the swell wave in March were generated after a long low atmospheric pressure system move over the region from the South Atlantic Ocean. Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. About this, it was established as an autonomous body in 1999. The Ministry of Earth Science is the nodal ministry and it is unit of the Earth System Science Organization. It is mandated to provide ocean data, information and advisory service to society, industry and government and the scientific community. INCOIS provides ocean state forecast service detailing wave heights, direction, period, sea surface currents, temperature and more. Swell search forecast system to forecast swell waves. The INCOIS launched in 2020, which can give fair warning 7 days in advance about the waves. Okay. So, the arrival of the pressure system resulting in strong winds, which led to the formation of the swell waves of up to 11 meters in height. These waves hit the Kerala coast and the Lakshadweep. Difference between swell waves and tsunami distribution characteristics. Unlike swell waves, a tsunami is a series of enormous waves created by underwater disturbances, usually with earthquake-like conditions occurring below or near the ocean. A tsunami are around 10 times faster than the swell waves. The speed of the tsunami waves are much faster and the wave size may be much higher in size, and devastation is much more in case of tsunami than in case of the swell waves. Tsunami are around 10 times faster than swell waves. Although both swell waves and tsunami slow down near the coast, the swell waves hit the land 30-50 km per hour, which is faster in case of tsunami. Then the next is the World Press Freedom Index 2024. According to Reporters Without Border (RSF), for Reporters Sans Frontiers, as it is called, India's position in the World Press Freedom Index declined from 36.62 to 31.28. The index is compiled by the Reporters Sans Frontier, Reporter Without Border, annually assessing the ability of journalists to work and report freely and independently. India rank improved from 161 in 2023 to 159 in 2024. So there is an improvement. However, this rise was primarily due to other countries slipping in their ranking. It's not that India has improved because it is from 36 to 31. Okay. But rank has improved because other countries have fallen below India. Scores for India decreased in all categories except for the security indicator in the press freedom questionnaires, which encompass political context, legal framework, economic context, socio-cultural context, and security. Ranking of Indian neighbors: Pakistan ranked 152 above India, Sri Lanka at 15, Nepal at 74, Maldives at 106, all are above India. Afghanistan is at 178 and Bangladesh 165 and Myanmar at 171. The Asia Pacific region, it is the world's second most difficult region for practicing journalists. 5 countries are among the world's 10 most dangerous countries for journalism. Myanmar 171, China 172, North Korea 177, Vietnam 174 and Afghanistan 178. That means world press freedom is severely affected in these regions. Other reports says so. Okay, so the United Arab Emirates, then the 8 other countries in the red zone on the map: Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Palestine, Iraq, Bahrain, Syria, Egypt. Palestine occupied the under bombardment by the Israeli army, and the deadliest country for journalists is at the bottom of the index. Which one? Palestine, because journalist life is at threat. countries with good press freedom, the country where press freedom is good are all in Europe, the most especially within the European Union, which have adopted is fast media freedom law. Okay. Okay. Norway first, followed by Denmark second, and Sweden third. Concern raised by the index: global press freedom under threat. Political authority who are supposed to safeguard press freedom are increasingly becoming threat to it. Press freedom have experienced a decline with an average decrease of 7.6 point globally. Use of AI for election manipulation, increasing use of artificial intelligence is raising concern. So next topic. Okay. So, artificial intelligence is raising concern, particularly in application of propagating technology for the political motives. Then RBI review banks capital market exposure NERV for T plus 1 settlement. So, about the 1 day settlement T plus 1. Okay. The RBI revised the guidelines for custodian bank to issue irrevocable payment commitment in light of the T plus 1 settlement regime for stocks. The capital market exposure limit, the maximum intraday risk to the custodian bank issuing the IPC would be considered as the CME at 30% of the settlement amount. Basis for the 30% risk limit, it is based on the assumption of a 20% downward price movement of the equity on T plus 1 with an additional margin of 10% for the downward movement of price. Earlier, the risk mitigation measures were prescribed based on the T plus 2 rolling settlement. Okay. So earlier the risk mitigation measure were prescribed based on the T plus 2 rolling settlement for the equities. Eligibility criteria for custodian bank issuing the IPC. Only custodian banks who have an agreement with the clients giving them an inalienable right over the security for receiving a payout in the settlement as permitted to issue the IPC. Okay. So eligibility criteria for the custodian bank issuing IPC: only custodian banks who have an agreement with the clients giving them an inalienable right over the security for receiving a payout in the settlement are permitted to issue the IPCs. This clause will not be insisted upon if the transactions are pre-funded. Capital maintenance in T1 settlement cycle. Under the T1 settlement cycle, the exposure shall normally be intraday. However, if exposure remains outstanding at the end of the T+1 Indian Standard Time, the bank will have to maintain capital based on the outstanding capital market exposure. Regulation of bank counterparty exposure. The underlying exposure of the bank to their counterparties emanating from the intraday capital market exposure will be subject to limits prescribed under the large exposure framework of the bank. Trade settlement. So it refers to the transfer of security and funds between buyers and the seller after a trade is executed. So a trade settlement is said to be complete once purchased security of a listed company are delivered to the buyer and the sellers get the money. Okay. Trade settlement period, it refers to the interval of the time between the trade date on which the order is executed in the market. Okay. Under the T+1 settlement cycle, if an investor sells security, the money gets credited into her account the following day. Status of India. India became the second country to start the T+1 settlement in the top listed security after China, bringing operational efficiency, faster fund remittance, share delivery, and ease of stock market participants. The T+2 trade settlement in India. In this, Indian stock exchange are settled in 2 working days after the transaction is done. T+2. T+0 trade settlement. This would mean settlement on the same day within an hour, and instant settlement would ensure trades are settled immediately. Then the ITA acquired Metersoyer. The ITA acquired Metersoyer, which has been active since April 15th, is about to reach its peak on May 5th and 6th. The ETA acquired Metersoyer is one of the two annual soyers. It is found when Earth passes through the orbital part of the Halley's Comet. Completion of one orbit of the Halley's Comet orbits the Sun approximately every 76 years, and its debris creates the ETA acquids when Earth intersects its orbit. Discovery of the Halley's Comet. The periodic nature of the appearance of the Halley's Comet was discovered by the astronomers Edmund Halley in 1705. Last appearance of the Halley's Comet last appeared in 1986 and is expected to return to the inner solar system in 2061. The Orionids Metersoyer. This soyer occurs in October and is also caused by the debris from the Halley's Comet. Growing tail. The ETA acquired Metersous has faster meters and leave long glowing tails. Speed of movement, it moves at speed of at around 66 km per second into Earth atmosphere. Duration and peak period. Time duration in a year. The ETA acquired Metersoyer typically runs from around April 21 to May 12 each year. The number of visible meteors remains low until the peak around Okay, so best visible location. These soils are best visible to countries such as Indonesia and Australia in the southern hemisphere. The soil's radiant location, southern hemisphere observers have a clear view of the meteors given the sky due to the soil's radiant location. The radiant point of the ETA acquired meteors is located within the constellation of the Okay, so meteoroids occurs when Earth passes through the orbital planes. Okay, of the of a comet encountering the debris left behind by the comet. As the Earth moves through this debris field, the sky lights up with small and large meteor tails. Then the red colobus monkeys conserving is crucial for protecting the continent's tropical forest. According to a recent study, red colobus monkey spread across Africa. It is a member of the Columbine group, primarily feeds on leaves and is native to the western, central, and eastern Africa, ranging from Senegal to Zanzibar archipelago. Found in habitat like humid forest and coastal thickets. They are listed as one of the world's 25 most endangered primates by the IUCN. They have distinctive brown and orange coat, lack thumbs, and mainly consume young leaves, flowers, and unripe roots with a charcoal or clay aiding in digestion. The Sangam Valley of the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, India's protest China road construction in the Sangam Valley of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, claiming it as part of the territory and raising concern over the territorial integrity of India. India has never accepted the 1963 China-Pakistan boundary agreement and protest against any attempt to alter the situation. The Sangam Valley, also known as the Trans-Karakoram Tract, is an area of about 5,200 square kilometers north of the Karakoram West Head, administered by China but claimed by India. While under Pakistan's control since 1947, Pakistan recognized China's sovereignty over it in the 1963 Sino-Pakistan Agreement. India disputes this claim, asserting it is part of the Kashmir region. The Sangam Valley is strategically important due to its proximity to the Siachen Glacier, a critical area amidst India-China tension. Then come to the question: what is the FRBM Act? What provisions does it contain regarding the fiscal consolidation? Fiscal discipline and sound fiscal policy are essential for maintaining macroeconomic stability and propelling economic growth. Recognizing this, the Indian government enacted the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Act in 2003. The acts aim to ensure fiscal discipline at the cost center, reduce the fiscal deficit, and bring transparency in the fiscal operation. Further emphasizing the gravity of the disciplined fiscal approach, the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Review Committee report recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for the general government by 2023, comprising 30% for the central government and 20% for the state government. Object of the FRBM Act, limitation of deficit. The Act focuses on reducing the fiscal and revenue deficit of the government. Okay, fiscal and revenue deficit to manageable levels, prudent public debt management, ensure that government debt remains sustainable in the medium to long term. Okay, the fiscal target, the Act mandated the central government to eliminate revenue deficit and reduce fiscal deficit to an agreed upon percentage of the GDP by a set timeline. Borrowing guidelines: the central government can only borrow from the RBI for temporary period, not for financing its deficit. Medium-term fiscal policy statement: a rolling 3-year fiscal policy strategy statement must be presented, outlining the government's policy for the coming 3 years. Measures to enhance transparency: the government is required to lay before the parliament several statements like the medium-term fiscal policy report, fiscal policy strategy statement, and macroeconomic framework statement. This has made the government fiscal stance and future strategy clear to stakeholders, aiding in better decision making for business and the investors. Escape clause, recognizing that in specific extraordinary circumstances, fiscal target can be exceeded. The Act provides an escape clause, for instance, during periods of sharp economic downturn, national security concern, and other exceptional grounds. In the face of the global economic downturn in 2008-9, India has to deviate from the prescribed fiscal consolidation path. The escape clause provide a legitimate framework for this deviation, emphasizing the Act's flexibility. The FRB Act of 2003 marked a pivotal step in India's journey towards establishing fiscal discipline and sustainable through challenges remain in strict adherence to provisions. The Act has undoubtedly provided a structural framework ensuring transparency, accountability, and a roadmap for fiscal prudence. As with any economic legislation, the Act's true test lies in its flexibility yet discipline. Okay, it's framework ensuring transparency, accountability, roadmap for fiscal prudence. As with any economic legislation, the Act true test lies in the flexibility and discipline in implementation, striking the balance between the growth imperative and the fiscal surplus. Because the FRB Act was passed to reduce the or to keep the government deficit under control and put a check on the borrowing power of the government. Because government go on borrowing unlimited amount, that led to okay. So thank you for watching. Watch regular to update yourself.